Chapter 23, in which our hero's virginity is discussed and unlicensed psychiatry is practiced. Bitch whore, I whispered, after we'd shown our passports to the woman behind the desk and walked into the lounge where a sea of businessmen were drinking themselves sleepy before their flights. I want to text that to Fitz. Is it one word or two? Parker didn't say anything. She was mad, or pretending to be, and either way, I thought she'd become a little too overprotective of someone she'd only been friends with for 48 hours. We sat at a table with a view of the runway, and after a while I said, "Look, if you'd rather not help me get back together with Sadie, you don't have to. I didn't ask for your help." She watched a plane take off, and I wasn't sure she'd heard me, but a moment later she turned to me and said, "No, Edwin Green, this is my good deed, and you and Sadie Evans will get back together. Although, the more I hear about her, the less good my deed feels. But who am I to judge? Maybe you've done something terrible and actually deserve her. You know, when the gods want to punish us, they answer our prayers." It was strange to hear someone besides a film or music critic say bad things about Sadie. Everyone at school worshipped her, and because of that, I'd missed out on a key element of the breaking up grieving process. Namely, the part where friends badmouth your ex until you start to view the breakup as a good thing. I'm sure even back in the Paleolithic era, when a cave woman dumped a caveman, all his cave buddies would come over and trash the offending party, in hopes of cheering up their sad prehistoric friend. "You invent fire? You can do much better. There are plenty of megalodons in sea. We should never go near sea again." But I didn't have any buddies, cave or otherwise, except Fitz, and when I told him after Black Saturday that I didn't want to talk about it, he obliged. And sure, after a year, most guys would have moved on, but even that wasn't an option for me, because the only thing any girl at school ever wanted to talk to me about was, you guessed it, my ex-girlfriend. My heart was trapped in romantic purgatory, and Sadie Evans was my only salvation. Another plane took off, and Parker said, "Or maybe my good deed should be making sure the two of you never get back together." "What?" "Nothing," Parker said, and smiled at me. I never got used to her smiling at me. "Okay," I said. "Whatever. I'm not going to try and convince you Sadie is a nice person, but just let me say she never seemed like the type of person who'd have her dad dump me by text. Until she did it." Parker mumbled something else I didn't catch. "She really was a sweet girl," I said, now sounding way too defensive. "You don't have to defend her to me, Edwin Green." "Good," I said. "I won't. That said, I think I can help you." "Okay, how?" "I'm no psychiatrist, but I've spent enough time with them that I can legally practice in 6 states. Do you want to hear my expert opinion?" "Sure. It'll cost you 5 cents. "Fine." "You need closure," Parker said. "Sadie took your virginity and ran off with it, and that's why you're still obsessed with her, even though she treated you worse than shit." "She didn't take my virginity," I said loud enough that half the people in the lounge looked up from their laptops. We never got farther than, "I don't want the details, Edwin Green. Details are always vulgar." "Fine," I said, "but we didn't have sex. She was a preacher's daughter." "So? In my experience, preachers' kids are the worst people on earth." "Yeah, well, you two have a lot in common." Parker raised an eyebrow and said, "Like?" "Like, okay, you know how on the last day of 6th grade, girls were still gross and you should avoid them at all costs? But on the first day of 7th grade, they were hot and pretty much all you thought about all day?" No. "Right. Anyway, by 7th grade, Sadie was unanimously regarded as the 6th hottest girl in our class, and hold up, you ranked every girl in your class in 7th grade?" "Not me personally, and not the entire class, just the top 10. Is this list published somewhere? Can I see it? It was more of an oral tradition. So you're telling me a girl on every magazine's most beautiful list was only the sixth hottest girl in her class of 50 girls at JP Hornby? I shrugged and Parker said, "Whatever, get on with the story, you pig." Like I was saying, I said, in 7th grade, Sadie found herself the focus of our collective hormone-riddled attention. But no one can go on real dates in 7th grade. You're totally dependent on your parents' willingness to drive you to the movies or the mall or wherever. But Sadie couldn't even do that. Even if your parents drove and sat between you at the movies, she couldn't go. But everyone still tried. Buzz Booker asked her first, and she told him no, and though he later told everyone she was a lesbian, 16 guys still lined up to try their luck and were all promptly rejected. Parker laughed and said, "Okay, that sounds vaguely familiar." "Exactly. You two have a lot in common." "Like hell. We have exactly one thing in common. We both attract mouth-breathing football guys." "Okay, you have one thing in common. Besides, Sadie was nice to all the guys she turned down." Parker flipped me off and said, "So did you ask her out in 7th grade too?" "I never asked her out." "She asked you out?" "Not exactly," I said. "She just invited me to church one Sunday, then the next, then the next. A month later, she was telling people I was her boyfriend, and we were making out in the pastor's study." "Vulgar details," Parker said, covering her ears. I shrugged and said, "You're the one who wanted to hear all this. Anyway, I doubt I would have ever asked her out, on account of my undiagnosed case of caligynophobia." "You're afraid of calligraphy?" "What? No." "How do you invite people to your formal gatherings, Edwin Green?" I laughed and said, "No, caligynophobia, the fear of beautiful women." Parker crossed her arms and said, "I think I'm offended. Why aren't you shaking in fear right now?" "Trust me," I said. "You scare the shit out of me." Parker smiled and I looked at my feet, and things were awkward for a moment before Garland hobbled up to our table and said, "Where the hell have you two been? Come on, we've got some international laws to break."